nakita ko kahit na rain or shine, kahit na bumabagyo, sa ibang lugar nga ho, may lindol, mayroon pong vulkan, our teachers are always in school. And they're the first person who will go to the school and they're the last person who will leave the school. Kaya ho, hindi po ako nagduda na Saturday morning ho ang ating event. Ganyan ho talaga. We'll just sayang ho, nag-prepare ho talaga ako nitong presentation para sa inyo. I understand, Doc, that this is a hybrid event. No, so we have, I think, much more participants through online, and ayan pala. I hope they will see the PowerPoint presentation. But you know, one of the things that we learned during the pandemic is the use of Zoom. Prior to the pandemic, hindi ko nga ako alam kung anong Zoom. So totoo lang ko. Hindi ko alam kung anong Zoom, hindi ko alam kung anong Shopee, hindi ko alam kung anong Lazada. Kung may kailangan po akong gamit, pupunta ko talaga ako ng mall to buy things. Pero nung natuto ako ng Shopee, in 1 year, naging platinum member na ako ng Shopee. Nung bili ko ako ng Shopee, nakaka-addict ko ang Shopee. Dami mga little things. No? So, but that is really technology. And in fact, like I said, there are good things and bad things, but we use the good things, especially for teacher training. In fact, I recommended to NEA, under the new law, the Excellence in Teacher Education Law, NEA is reborn. And I recommended to DepEd to use technology as a way to train our teachers. Traditionally ho kasi pag nagte-train ng teachers, pinapapunta natin lahat dito sa Metro Manila. In fact, ito ang favorite na hotel ng mga CPD. Yung continuous professional development. Ilang beses ako na-invite ko dito. Dahil mura ang hotel, may pagkain, at pinaka-importante, may shopping. Kaya ako kasama doon sa itinerary, nakikita ko yung shopping. So, but of course, it's very costly for our teachers, especially from the provinces, to come here, pay for their ticket, pay for the hotel, and pay for the CPD program. So, moving forward, I recommended to DepEd through NEA, National Educators Academy of the Philippines, to use technology. Maybe hybrid. Merong pwedeng pumunta dito, and then may hybrid. So that we cut costs and we can train immediately. Even before the pandemic, our education system was already under a lot of stress. Alam niyo ho yan, you're on the ground, you teach, you talk to our parents, you talk to our teachers, you talk to our students, you talk to our PTA, and even prior to the pandemic, our students, teachers are under a lot of stress. And that stress is reflected in our learner outcomes. Makikita natin yan sa grades natin. So, I think we all know this slide, yung PISA results. I think this is a wake-up call for all of us. Ayaw ko man sabihin nyo ito, pero it became a national shame for all of us because this is global. It was actually first in many years that we took PISA again. And pagdating mo sa reading, we were last. And then pagdating sa math and science, we were also second to the last. Let's take this constructively, even though we came in last. But let's take this as a challenge for all of us, including us policymakers. Meaning, there's no way to go but up. If we do our work properly, properly, if we institute reforms, then ang only trajectory natin ay pataas. So ako ay, although all of us were shocked when this came out, but I view this as a challenge, and a challenge for everyone who is in the education sector. Not only education sector, actually everyone in our country. No? Because it takes a village to raise a child. Hindi lang naman po teachers, hindi naman lang po yung mga politicians, but the whole barangay and the whole community has a responsibility to improve learner outcomes. So I'll start off with this slide because ito talaga yung situation natin prior to the pandemic. This is the real score. And after PISA, a few more international large-scale examinations were conducted. And on your top left side, which is the TIMSS examinations, ganun rin, no? In terms of proficiency, yung minimum proficiency lang, ilang bata ang umabot sa minimum proficiency. Pagdating sa math, 19% lang. Pagdating sa science, 13% lang. No? And we're actually one of the lowest in terms of minimum proficiency. Pagdating naman po sa CPLM, yung Southeast Asia Primary Learning Matrix, which tested Southeast Asian nation, tinignan rin po namin yung minimum proficiency. So ganun rin, for reading 10% and for mathematics 17%. In fact, we're one of the lowest. No? Ang mas mababa lang sa atin, Laos. No? So, and this is validated also by our national achievement test, yung domestic national achievement test natin. And I'm sure you know that, no? Below 50% tayo pagdating sa national achievement test for grade 6 and also for grade 10. So, in other words, bago pa lang pumasok ang pandemya, ang learner outcomes natin, napakalaking challenge. And there are many factors bakit ganito ito, and later on I'll discuss about some of the ways forward. But definitely, napakalaking challenge na hinaharap ng ating mga teachers pagdating sa learner performance and learner outcomes. Kaya, the pandemic actually exacerbated the situation. It didn't help, but exacerbated the situation. And actually, this report just came out from UNESCO. Ang Philippines, ang pinakamatagal na school closures. Almost 375 school days ang school closure natin. One of the longest in the whole world. And of course, we have our own medical and safety reasons, but just goes to show that the Philippines has one of the longest school closures in the whole world. So nung nag-school closure tayo, we don't have any choice but to go online and distance learning. Una, online. Sabi natin, mag-online tayo dahil lahat ng Pinoy meron namang Facebook. Ang daming marites nga sa Facebook, kayang-kaya nating mag-online because yung ultimo kapitbahay mo may Facebook. But we found out that internet access is only 40%. In fact, itong data na ito, may caveat to because those who actually have internet access 24/7 is only 20%. That's why makikita natin here on the left side that everyone preferred self-learning modules in SLM. Only 2% were actually using online modules. This is actually a survey by WorldMap. So lahat ng modules, we spent billions. In fact, ang budget natin for modules in the last fiscal year was almost 16 billion pesos to print modules. Pero effective ba ang modules o hindi? So on that right slide, makikita natin yung age 6, tinanong kasing bata, effective ba? Tinanong rin yung magulang, tingin nyo effective ba yung modules? Natututo ba yung bata? If you look at from age 6 to 12, below 50% ang nagsabi na effective ang modules. Yung mga mas matatandang bata, sinabi nila effective because independent learners na sila. Obviously, no, nakakabasa na sila, naintindihan. Pero yung mga bata, tsaka yung mga younger kids, sabi nila hindi effective with modules, only below 50%. In fact, if you look at from 6 years old to 9 years old, below 30% pa. So, but we all know these are the most important ages. Yung key stage 1, yun ang pinakamahalagang taon ng bata. Diyan dapat natututo yung bata magbasa, diyan dapat natututo yung bata mag-math and other skills. But because of the self-learning modules and our requirement for the parents to teach, tingin nila hindi effective. Alam naman natin, especially in the province, that not all parents can teach. Marami sa kanila hindi rin nag-graduate ng high school. Marami sila hindi nag-graduate ng college. So, it was really a challenge for them to teach their own children. So, it was established in this survey conducted by the World Bank. It's called the HOOP Survey, Household Panel and Economic Survey, that the self-learning modules are not effective for ages 6 until 12 years old. Doon sa mga independent learners, mas effective siya. So in terms of effects of COVID to our education system, and there are many studies that were conducted by the World Bank, by UNICEF, sinasabi na napaka-laking damage ang ginawa ng COVID-19 sa education system natin. Pre-pandemic level, yung ACE natin, yung number of years, learning adjusted years, lalo siyang bumaba. In simple terms, explain ko lang itong slide on the 7. In the Philippines, they took into account the number of years of learning and the quality of our education. Lumalabas, ang 12-year, ang nag-graduate sa senior high school, na 12 years ang dinaan, effectively only 7.5 years ang kanilang natututunan based on the metrics that they use. But during the pandemic, because hindi sila nakakapasok, yung mga bata, hindi effective yung learning modules, nabawasan in years of learning nila. So from 7.5 to only 5.8 nila at the worst case scenario. So umiksi pa. So ibig sabihin nila, tapos ng senior high school, ng 12 years of learning, natutunan niya 5.8 years of learning lang. This is a survey conducted by World Bank. And this correlates to the performance to our PISA, to our performance to our teams, to our performance to our CPLM. It correlates, in fact, yung data point nila is CPLM in this particular case. Pagdating naman sa learning poverty, the number of 10-year-old who can read, pre-pandemic, almost 70% of our 10-year-olds cannot read. Nahirapan sila magbasa, nahirapan comprehension. Nung tumama yung pandemic, tumaas siya from 70% to 90%. I'm sure you can see this. And kami sa Valenzuela, nakikita rin namin to. That's why in Valenzuela, every summer, meron kaming learning camp to really talagang binubugbog namin yung aming batang magbasa for 1 month. May incentive naman. Pag natapos mo yung session, binibigyan namin ng Jollibee gift certificate para madala nila yung pamilya nila sa Jollibee. So, meron po kami ganun. We noticed kasi, to be honest about it, that the reason why we gave incentive, when we launched the program, ang laki ng dropout. Yung first week pumapasok, second week hindi na pumapasok. And we found out that a lot of the students, iba-ibang reason, no? Some is poverty, some tumutulong sa tindahan, some tumutulong sa barbecue stand. So, maraming reason, but mostly economic reasons. So, what we did is we incentivize. Pag natapos mo yung 20-day session of our reading camp, you get I think a 1,000 peso gift certificate from Jollibee. Kasi ang rationale namin doon, dadali mo yung pamilya mo sa Jollibee. And Jollibee is very popular for kids. So dadali mo doon at you'll celebrate together. So our participation rate for that reading camp tumaas to 100%. But my point of the matter there is maraming hindi marunong magbasa. That's why we're really harping on reading in Valenzuela. But not only our schools and our students are affected, but also our economy. No? And I'll put this in simple terms. No? Dito in your left side is the long-term impact to our economy. No? Almost 21 trillion pesos ang nawala from now till 2040. And the reason for that is, kung ang bata hindi marunong magbasa, most likely magda-drop out siya. Kung ang bata hindi marunong magbilang, most likely baka hanggang high school lang ang matatapos niya. Ibig sabihin yung trabaho niya, hindi maganda ang sweldo o hindi mataas ang sweldo. Most likely yung trabaho niya, yung mababang uri. And that affects our economy, because our economy is measured by output. So ibig sabihin yung output ng economy natin mas mababa. So ang opportunity loss natin in the next 20 years is about 21 trillion pesos only in education. Pero pag sinama natin lahat yan, kasama dyan yung health, kasama dyan yung consumer consumption, aabot yan to about 74 trillion. But that's on education. Makikita natin that's the second biggest opportunity loss for our country. Dito naman on the right side is our economic growth. Yung dotted line sa taas is our trajectory bago mag-pandemya. Dapat ganyan yung growth natin. But because our schools closed for 2 years, productivity went down and it affects our economic growth in the medium term. So pag na-affect yung ating economic growth, bababa ang kita ng tao. So these are the impact of school closure to per capita income. So in 2023, 600 pesos ang mawawala in terms of per capita income. On the average to. In 2024, 1,900 pesos. By 2030, it's 29,000 pesos. Siguro nagtataka kayo, ba't lumalaki siya? In the short term, kasi yung mga senior high school natin nakagraduate na. So yung impact of schools closure sa kanya mas maiksi. Remember, in our SLM, mas effective yun. Pero as we move along, yung mga K to 3, yung Key Stage 1, na ineffective yung SLM, aakyat siya. At ang estimate ng, this is from ADB, yung cohort na nahirapan mag-aral, most likely will be unproductive. Mas mababa yung sweldo, nag-drop out siya, no? Mas mababa uri yung kanyang trabaho, and that affects our per capita income. So that's the logic why over time lumalaki yung bawas sa ating per capita income. So my point of the matter here is the pandemic created a lot of damage in our education system. In fact, yung tinatawag nilang scarring effect. Yung scarring effect, ibig sabihin, we might not recover from it. Might happen if we don't do anything. So ang importante ngayon are interventions. And I'm actually preaching to the choir kasi alam niyo yan on the ground. So we need to have massive intervention para makahabol tayo and we avoid such a catastrophe. So ano ba yung mga suggestions namin? So we came up with some suggestions to the new management of DepEd. Ang sabi namin, yung first 100 days, importante yan. It's a symbolic, cut-off. In any new administration, ang first 100 days is a symbolic period. Dapat may mapakita ka ng effective programs mo in the first 100 days. We all know education takes time. Hindi overnight ang solution ka. Pero may mga low-hanging fruits that we can pick, no, and implement in the first 100 days. And I'll go through it very quickly lang, no, dahil medyo maraming detalye yan. But we can talk about it later on in the Q&A. The first one is to open our schools. Number one is the rapid approach by UNESCO. But basically what it says is, buksan na natin eskwelahan natin. So check na yan dahil nung Monday nagbukas na tayo. Although nung Tuesday nagsara tayo, pero nung Monday nagbukas tayo. At ako personally, umikot ako sa Valenzuela, I would say largely it's successful because our teachers, principals, and superintendents are ready and are experienced already. Kasi nung nag-pilot testing tayo, marami tayong mga teachers, superintendents, and principals, pinag-aralan talaga kung ano yung gagawin. And because of that pilot testing, naging effective yung pagbubukas natin ng eskwelahan. So, first one is to open our schools, and we've done that, and to make sure that we keep our schools open for the next 2 years or forever actually, because the school closures, as we have seen it, has really bad effects on our education system. Number 2 is to implement the new law, Excellence in Teacher Education Act. Itong batas na ito ginawa namin para sa inyo, sa mga teachers natin. And we gave DepEd a lot of powers in terms of aligning yung pre-service curriculum and also the in-service training. We found out from the Philippine National University, mga tinuturo sa pre-service, hindi nakatugtong or hindi aligned dun sa mga kailangan natin sa in-service. So nagte-training pa ulit sa in-service. So with this new law, DepEd will be the chairman of the Teacher Education Council para ma-align niya, at hindi nasasayang yung itinuturo sa pre-service level. And then number 3, implement the career progress policy. Ito na-implement na ito ni President Duterte, and I want to thank him through EO 174. So may mga bagong teaching positions na ngayon. Importante yan para magkaroon ng increased motivation for our teachers. Dahil uminto yan sa Teacher 3 yata, Teacher 3. So meron na tayong mga bagong teaching positions para may career progression and improve morale. Number 4, lessen the teacher workload. Alam ko, maraming problema talaga yan. And we will continue to move that. Rest assured kami sa Senate, we will continue to push for more teacher aides, for more para-teachers. In fact, we will define that properly. And we will continue to push DepEd to lessen the extracurricular activities of teachers. Kagaya ng deworming, pagtukukuto, pagtanggal ng kuto, teacher pa rin yun. Pati kuto, teacher pa rin yun. So we're moving to reduce the non-teaching activities of our teacher. Pero in the budget, meron ng budget for 5,000 administrative staff. And alam ko 5,000 is not enough, but considering that we have 50,000 schools. But we're pushing. Slowly and slowly, we're adding more administrative staff for our teachers. Number 5 is to refine our curriculum for Key Stage 1. Put more emphasis on reading and math. Yun lang. Bugbugin natin sa reading and math. In fact, we're studying the possibility of lessening the subjects, putting more time for English and math, para yung bata talaga mahasa yung kanyang foundational skills na kakailanganin niya moving forward. So, of course, we have to look at the entire curriculum. Hindi naman pwedeng stage 1. We have to look at the entire curriculum. But the concept there is more time for reading, more time for math, less time for the other things. More or less. I won't go into the details now dahil that's a very technical discussion, but that is the concept that we're pushing. And then number 6 is to reduce further the competencies. Na-reduce the competencies by 60%. But when we talk to the expert, we can still reduce the number of competencies, again, to only teach the most important, most essential competencies. Para ang teacher, alam mo, pagkausap ko yung mga teacher, hindi nila natuturo lahat ng competencies eh. Hirap yung mga teachers natin magturo ng lahat ng competencies. Ibang competencies nga, sinasabi nila, wala naman use. So we're moving to lessen further the number of competencies to the most, kumbaga kung most essential pa. Number 7, reduce the number of extracurricular activities for teachers and students. More time to study, more time to prepare your lesson plan. And then number 8, to ensure every teacher is a reading teacher. Importante yan. Hindi lang po si English teacher, reading teacher. Hindi lang po si math, si Filipino teacher is a reading teacher. Pati ho si science, pati ho si Araling Panlipunan, pati ho si MAPE. Everyone should be a reading teacher. Number 9, we also suggested to the new management to conduct an National Education Summit. Alam niyo, maraming solution galing sa inyo eh. Maraming solution galing sa inyo dahil alam niyo yung problema on the ground. No? And I suggested to them that the solution finding should be bottom up, not top down. Kasi madalas top down tapos hindi naman ma-implement. Ang hirap pala ma-implement. So that's what we do in Valenzuela. I spend so much time, even now as a senator, to listen to our teachers, principals, and superintendent kasi alam nila yung problema. And then we process it through policy. Number 10, reinvent the school board. School board natin ngayon, parang funding allocation lang. Si Mayor, wala masyadong accountability when it comes to the student performance or to the school performance. The Mayor should be accountable as well. And I told si VP Sara, being our Secretary of Education, siya rin being a mayor, na alam niya no, na ang mayor, malaki ang political capital na magagamit in order to improve the school and the local education system. So we have to revamp the school board and change it from a appropriations body to a accountability body on education. And lastly, we created, because of PISA, Congress and the Senate created the Education Commission 2, and this is to look at the short-term, medium-term, and long-term problems of our education system. Iko-convene na namin to. It's a 10-man team composed of congressmen and senators and the private sector. And we will also invite stakeholders like Fatapin to participate in EDCOM. This is not only, hindi lang puro, alam niyo, minsan mga congressmen and senators, kala nila, alam na nila lahat. Kala namin, alam na namin lahat. But we designed EDCOM that it will be participative. We designed it that the solutions should come from bottom up, so that a lot of the solutions that we'll be proposing will be practical and implementable. So mag-uumpisa na ho yan, and that's our answer to the low PISA scores that we received in 2018. So mga kasama, in a nutshell, we presented our first 100 days suggestion to the department, but this is not exclusively for the executive branch because a lot of it will be supported by the legislative branch kami. And when I talked to VP Sara, we both agreed that we have to work together in order to push for reforms, further reforms in the education sector. We start with this in 11 basic recommendations namin dahil low-hanging fruits to, pero high impact naman to pag na-implement natin. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and I think Dr. Cesar recommend suggested to have a short open
academic interventions. I'll give you an example in the bill na pinasok namin doon. Yung mga education graduates, kailangan din nila mag-practicum. May NSTP rin sila. So we will use them as a way, or we will use them as the people to help tutor our students. So for example, gusto mag-implement ng isang LGU, a numeracy and literacy intervention, pwede nilang gamitin yung NSTP and national government will give the allowance. So conceptually, ganun yung nakapaloob dun sa batas na pag-uusapan namin in the next few days. So among many things, marami yun. So ang importante lang kasi, ang importante meron tayong additional na tulong, no, aside from the typical DepEd machinery. Dahil nga intervention to, pangdagdag ang kailangan natin. So we're gonna use additional money, additional manpower from pre-service, the pre-service level to help our teachers in the in-service level.
Thank you very much.
Conceptually, yun ang naisip namin.
Thank you very much, Senator. Now, any other questions, Dr.
I want to read that bill because we really put a lot of man hours to approve that bill, precisely to improve teacher quality in our country. And that is a bill for you, sa mga teachers natin. So, to answer your question directly, alam ko maraming TEIs, no? Yung teaching tertiary education institutions na may mga education subjects pero wala namang pumapasa sa LET. Maraming ganun. And in fact, may nakita kami mga COEs, yung Center of Excellence for education na ang baba ng kanilang passing rate, below 50%. So, paano magiging center of excellence kung kalahati ng graduate mo bagsak? And paano ka nagtuturo ng education kung walang pumapasa sa LEP? This goes for both public and SUCs. So, in this bill, tinighten namin yung regulation and in-improve pa namin yung qualification for COEs. In COEs, importante yan kasi yan ang magiging, kumbaga, repository of best practices, repository of research, para matuto naman yung mga ibang TEIs. Yung mga gusto magturo ng education, pwede sila pumunta sa COEs para matuto sila. We're not discouraging schools to have their own education courses. Ang gusto lang natin, ma-improve sila. Dahil kung pa-improve sila, i-improve yung passing rate ng LET. So that is the concept that we embedded in the law. And that's why this is a very robust law. Maraming concepts yan, all the way to in-service. And I recommend that you read this law so that you'll be guided later on. But that's an excellent question. Lumabas yan sa hearing namin at that's why we're now pushing the Teacher Education Council. Meron kasing Teacher Education Council. Linagay na namin dun yung power to accredit COEs. So sila na magsasabi na itong school, Center of Excellence to, i-accredit namin to. Pwede niyong puntahan to para makakuha ng best practices. Ano naman sinisigaw ko pag nasa entablado ako, pag ini-interview? 3 things lang. Number 1, bumalik na tayo sa face-to-face classes.
Yes.
Number 2, ayusin ang K-12.
Yes.
And number 3, taasan ang sweldo ng teachers natin. Yung tatlo lang, wala na lang. And itong tatlo ang pinakamalakas na palakpak sa mga nag-aaral. And I think because of that advocacy, obviously they vote, when people vote, they vote for either your popularity or your advocacy. In my particular case, hindi naman po ako artista. Binoto ako because of my advocacy. And that number 4 rank is an indication or a symbol that education is very important to our parents. Sabi nila, bumoto namin to dahil education yung kanyang agenda, kanyang advocacy at gusto niya ayusin to. So, that is, I attribute that to my advocacy on education. Kaya, pag panalo ka agad, trabaho kami kagad, we have to fulfill all those promises. On the other note, dun sa school building, alam niyo, pag linalabas sa media na, puno yung mga schools natin, 60, 70, hindi naman pantay-pantay gano'n. In the rural areas, sa mga probinsya, and I'm sure when you talk to teachers in the rural areas, mababa ang student to classroom ratio doon. May 20 pa nga, nakikita ko, 20, 30, because they have the luxury of space.
Yes.
Ang school sa probinsya, 1 hektarya, 2 hektarya, minsan 10 hectares. Wala silang problema sa space. Ang problema natin dito sa urban areas, including Valenzuela, Caloocan, Metro Manila. Una-una, ang mahal ng lupa dito. Gusto mo nga may pera ka nga pag-expand, ubus naman sa pagbibili ng lupa. Wala ang magpapatay ng classroom. So ang proposal ko, and I know there are regulations na up to 4th floor lang ang buildings natin, especially for high school. We'll have to look at increasing those floors and put elevators instead because mas economically, mas mura yun. At second, mas papapadami natin yung classrooms natin. I know some LGUs, ang ginawa nilang 4.5 yung kanilang, I think sa Marikina yata, when we talk to former Mayor BF, dahil nga of that regulation, sabi niya, hindi naman ako lumampas ng 5, naging 4.5. Ano yung 4.5? Yung parang may mezzanine level yata sila na ginawang classroom. But my point of the matter there is we have to look for solutions in the urban areas to increase the number of classrooms. Admittedly, may mga areas dito sa atin na 60 student per classroom, 50 student per classroom. Talagang mahirap, lalo na ngayon under the pandemic. But even without the pandemic, mahirap magturo ng 50 and above ang estudyante mo sa classroom. Lalo na kung ang situation natin ganito, na we have to emphasize on reading and math.
Thank you,
Growing. In fact, sinabi ko nga sa campaign, kung sinabi kong aayusin ang K-12,
yan ang pinakamalakas ng palakpak. Pinakamalakas. Hindi ko sinasabi i-abolish. Pag sinabi kong abolish, baka tumalon pa yung tao. But I don't believe in abolishing K to 12 because the whole world is ready K to 12. We cannot regress. And the dissatisfaction is growing. The 2019 is about 30%. Ngayon, umakyat na close to 50% ng dissatisfied. So, and we're tracing saan ba yung dissatisfaction na yan? And we saw the dissatisfaction is from two things. No? Number one, additional cost for the parents kasi additional baon, additional uniform. Number two, hindi na makatrabaho yung bata. Dati kasi pag-graduate ng 16 years old, nakakatrabaho na siya. Ngayon, 18 na, wala pa rin trabaho. So, we're actually, I'm going to file a bill to fix the senior high school level. We saw some gaps in the senior high school level, especially in the tech voc strand. Marami sa ating mga tech voc graduates hindi nakakahanap ng trabaho because walang linkage sa industry. At kulang-kulang rin yung gamit ng training sa ating senior high school. In fact, mga senior high school teachers natin, hirap maghanap ng saan ipapasok yung bata, anong training ang ibibigay. So we need to fix that. And we're filing a bill to tighten that gap so that there's linkage between senior high school and also industry so that when they graduate, may trabaho na sila. Out in the public, because I have a few things in my mind. And kayo, education stakeholders, we really need to study some of the concepts very carefully and look at ourselves in relation to the global community. Ang Filipino is considered a global citizen, for good and for bad. But because of our inherent and built-in English language, talagang in-demand tayo. Saan ka makakakita na ang nurse natin, pag linagay mo sa hospital in Britain, kaagad trabaho na. Pag linagay mo yung nurse ng Indonesia doon, baka isang taon pa hindi pa marunong mag-English. Tayo kasi built-in. The same with our teachers, the same with our seafarers, the same with our RT specialists in the Middle East. Engineers and architects natin, ang dami sa Middle East because pag-landing nila doon, kaagad kaya na mag-drawing in English pa. So, that is our competitive advantage. And I say that because it would, in my view, we have to harness that potential. We have to harness that we can actually contribute to global growth because of that potential, and we are contributing. Now, babalik tayo dito on a micro scale. Ano ba yung nakaka-apekto sa atin negatively with that direction? And we have to look at that independently. For example, reading and math. Because we're very weak in reading and math, that will affect our standing globally. Our engineers will be affected, our architects will be affected, our nurses will be affected. Dapat maayos natin yan. There's now a big talk about the medium of instruction. Ito, pag-isipan niyo mabuti ito kasi dadating ito. What is the appropriate medium of instruction for us from kindergarten all the way to grade 12, but particularly yung Key Stage 1. Kasi yung Key Stage 1 natin, mother tongue. So pag-isipan natin mabuti yan. What is the mother tongue concept affecting our global standing? Or the mother tongue concept affecting it positively or negatively? I don't have the answer right now. I am still studying that carefully. So those are the things that we need to think about carefully, no? Especially yung usapin ng medium of instruction. Very masalimuot yan, very controversial yan. But we need to think about that, lalo na kayo, because kayo yung mga nagtuturo on the ground. Now, yung support na pwede nyo bigay sa amin is research. Importante na all of this is based on research. Hindi lang, pag kinausap ko yung isang teacher natin, sir, ang hirap po magturo ng mother tongue. Hindi, tanggalin na natin yung mother tongue. Hindi naman pwedeng ganun, di ba? Tingnan rin natin kung ano ba yung ano ba sinasabi ng research, ano ba yung sinasabi ng data. No? Kasi hindi lang puro anecdotal, kundi it's well researched. Because it can affect the future. Pag ginalaw natin dito, after 12 years,
may effect yan sa ating lahat. So we need to study it very carefully. And wala nang reverse to. Pag nag-graduate yung bata, pumunta na ng grade 4, hindi mo na siya pwedeng pabalikin ng grade 1 para turuan ulit eh. Tuloy-tuloy na siya, tuloy-tuloy na siya. So whatever you teach in key stage 1, wala nang balikan yan. Wala nang balikan yan. So we need to study it very carefully. I don't want to jump into conclusions without looking at the data. And that's where you can help us. No, importante na all of this is data-driven and research-driven. So guided tayo parati. Of course, maraming mga academic researchers, but we also need to make sure that it's a Philippine setting. Iba-iba yung nangyayari sa Amerika, iba yung nangyayari sa Latin America, iba-iba yung nangyayari sa atin. So we need to make sure that it's Philippine setting.
Tama naman po.
Is also very important to the overall performance of our learners. Kaya ako pinupush yung increasing teacher salary. Hindi lang pang politika, but I looked at the ASEAN teacher salary. We're third to the lowest out of the 10. Ang mababa sa atin is Cambodia and Laos. You all know that we're much bigger and much wealthier than them. So just by that alone, we're not competitive in the region. Kaya marami tayong mga teachers maalis rin. No, they either work as tutors abroad for wealthy families. Maraming ganun, marami ako nakakausap na ganun. No, so brain drain, if we don't address that, we'll have brain drain. So we need to keep our good teachers in place. We attract the best, we train them, and we keep them. Hindi yung we attract the best, we train them, and then they leave. Kasi nga, hindi tayo competitive. So, that's why I've been pushing that. And my proposal is quite economical. It will only cost about 50+ billion. From teacher, salary grade 11 to salary grade 13 for teacher 1. Of course, gusto ng iba sa grade 15, but I have to be practical. No? And so, ang application ko is a two-step process. First muna to 13 and then second to 15 para hindi masyadong mabigat sa ating budget. But ang aking goal is to at least from the bottom 3 to at least upper half tayo. No? Dahil kung upper half tayo, respectable na tayo dito sa ASEAN. So yun ang aking goal. At the same time, that's why itong two things that we need to will continue to push. No? First yung EO-174 para malabas na yung IRR niya. And then ang pangalawa, itong teacher salary natin. We need to continue to improve the morale of our teachers. At the same time, we're also in the midst of updating the Magna Carta for teachers. We're updating that. Medyo mahaba siya, no? It will take time. But we're updating that so that it will be implementable. Ang nangyari kasi sa first Magna Carta, maraming provision doon. Almost half the provision unimplementable. Hindi naman sa ayaw implement, hindi ma-implement. Iba yung ayaw, iba yung hindi ma-implement because some of them may run counters to other laws. No? So, we need to fix that. So, but ma'am, you're absolutely correct and I thank you for expressing your sentiment.